I guess,
oh, there are some that joined.
yes, we are waiting for people to come in. And in
Yeah.
the meantime, I will start welcoming you all to this Medium ALBA Ambassador session organized by ALBA Network. ALBA, if you have never heard of, is a group of international scientists that is involved in research, education, and advocacy. And the main mission of ALBA is to promote diversity and inclusion in neuroscience, but in science in general. What we want to do is to share best practices to counteract bias, recognize outstanding contributions to science and diversity, provide networking and mentoring opportunities, and support career development of members of underrepresented groups. In this session, we have a great lineup of ALBA ambassadors from all over the world, and they will introduce some issues that we think are really important. And they will go from community leadership, why women are focusing on building community and team more than on their careers. We'll talk about work-life balance. And I have a disclosure here. I'm a mother of 3. So I guess I know a lot about this topic. And we also will also talk about science discrimination. Does it really matter where your lab is and what's your nationality? At the end of this talk, we will try to open up for questions. So all of you that are participating in this session, please start writing your questions. We will try to make it as interactive as possible. And I'm really looking forward to this session with all of you. First of all, I would like to introduce Laurence Ries. Laurence is responsible of the biomedical section and is the Vice Dean of the Faculty of Medicine and Pharmacy at the University of Mons in Belgium. Her research focuses on cellular and molecular mechanisms of synaptic plasticity in the hippocampus, and she works with animal models of Alzheimer's disease and autoimmune diseases. Laurence already pre-registered a talk that you can actually go and listen to after this session is finished. And today she will give us a little bit the juice of that talk. And this will be about community leadership. Women are more focused on building community and team. So I will leave this to Laurence now.
Yes, thank you very much, Francesca. Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here with you today for this live. And I would like to just bring to discussion with you the fact that some behavior are expected from you when you apply for leadership position in academia or in companies. And these behavior are most often related to what I can say classical male behavior as a leadership position, meaning self-confidence, authority, individualistic making decision, and so on. However, it's really true that other kind of behavior are really needed to lead a team. And I would like to talk about community leadership, which is more a way to lead a team with listening to people, participative decision making, and also taking care of others in the team for their personal development, but also for their own career. And really, I think that when we behave like this, there is no recognition of what we can bring to a company or society or university, because when we are just assessed for promotion, there are no indicator that can be used to say that indeed you help other people to advance in their career. So I'll leave it open for discussion.
Thank you very much, Laurence. And so this is a first hint of the, and this, of course, this opens up a lot of questions that I would already have. But what I will do is to go on, and so we will sort of jump from one topic to the other and then come back to them. So think about which questions you would like to ask, and we'll get back to that. So now I would like to leave the floor to Srikanth Ramaswamy, a group leader and senior scientist at EPFL in Lausanne. He's actually part of the Blue Brain Project. He's leading a multidisciplinary group at the interface of experimental neurophysiology and large-scale computational modeling. And he has an experience to share, and has to do with struggling between parenthood and academia. So please, Srikanth.
Right. Thank you, Francesca, for the nice introduction. So I'll touch upon something that Francesca briefly mentioned. That's work-life balance, and how it is to be a scientist in addition to a parent, and you need to excel on both fronts. So as a young scientist and father of two little children, I often feel like a lot of you scientists, parents out there, that it is a very tightrope walk in juggling parenthood and academia. And I think the academic enterprise has inadequate support for scientists and parents, and should do much more to enable scientists in their dual role as parents. And in particular, I think early career scientists who have childcare responsibilities are quite often penalized by the academic system. And this is very relevant. I mean, this has always been relevant, and all the more so in today's hyper-competitive academic landscape, because it takes close to a decade to train as a scientist and receive peer recognition. And invariably, this is also the critical time window when one intends to start a family. So to me, academia really needs to think out of the box to enable both the scientist and the parent. And by spawning this discussion thread, I really hope to come up with ideas and comments and proposals on coming up with ways to reform, to sow the seeds of reform in academia, and as to how academia can transform its mindset to support scientists as well as their role as parents. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts and comments and having a freewheeling discussion on what I think is a very crucial topic in academia.
Okay, thank you very much, Srikanth. As I said, being a mother myself, I realize how difficult it is really to balance, you know, your work life, your lab work, and I think it's very important what you said, that in fact, we need proposals. We need proposals coming from those who are, you know, really feeling that there is a problem in this sense. So I'm really hoping that some of the attendees today will share their ideas as to how can we shape the future of academia in order to take into account these important issues. Thank you again, Srikanth. So I will now go on and introduce Dipesh, okay? And I would like, first of all, to acknowledge that we have a worldwide panel, because we are going from Switzerland to Abu Dhabi at this point. And he's an assistant professor of biology at Abu Dhabi, and went to the University of London. So he was trained in the UK. And he's now interested in understanding pathophysiological changes in neural circuit function that lead to mood disorders and memory loss. I would like Dipesh Chaudhury to actually comment on this, on work-life balance, on what his experiences on this, and whether he already has a recipe for how to make this work in academia.
Thank you. Okay, hi everyone. Thank you, Francesca, and for the introduction. So yeah, this is actually, this topic overlaps with a lot of stuff that we're going to be talking about today, and what Srikanth alluded to with having kids. It's tough, right? Trying to get. So first of all, yeah, I don't have a magic solution, unfortunately, but we know of things that we can do, right? So of course, we see it in the media. Having this balance is important. And there have been studies shown, and anecdotally, I think all of us have. I know from my personal experience, I do have this experience that, especially when I've actually had our daughter, before I was kind of just wasting a lot of time in the lab. But then I found out that I had to be more efficient with time, because I had to get home and help my wife with our daughter, otherwise I would have been in trouble. So that actually made me work much better. But also what I found was that gave me time to sort of step away from work for a bit, right? And that helped me actually think through, especially when I was writing papers or writing grants, okay? And this actually ties up with, even since we're in a science forum, right? There's scientific studies that have shown that, like mass learning and space learning, where you take a break, animals, even Drosophila, can learn better, right? So I know definitely from my anecdotal evidence that this helped a lot. And also just for mental well-being, this again relates to stepping away from work and going for a run, going on holiday, going to, doing some exercises, get those endorphins going, or whatever it is, or doing something that you like doing, right? Again, this relates to having that time just for your brain. You may be thinking in the background about, something related to work, but I really find that that's helpful, and it's important to be aware of that. And for departments, I guess, and the promotion committees to be aware that, we can't be just spending all our time working, that these things, we have other life things that we need to be involved with, which actually increases our productivity, I think, in terms of doing really good work. So I hope, we can discuss some of these things in this debate and continue talking about these things, because these are, I think, important things for both our own well-being, but also doing well for our departments that we work in. Thank you, Francesca.
Thank you. Actually, I will do something that was not, we had not agreed on, but I have a question from Carmen Sandy, so I guess I should ask it now. And I will ask it first to Dipesh. And Carmen is asking, does it make sense to have 80% positions in academia research?
Sorry, could you repeat that again?
Yeah, sure, of course. So the question is, would it be one potential solution? Would it be to have positions that are at 80%, not 100%?
Oh, you mean in terms of the time you commit?
Right. Could that be one possibility?
I guess it depends. I don't know. So it depends on where you are and the dynamics of your institution, right? I mean, I know with my experience, both UK and US and then now here, I pretty much have, apart from my teaching times, my timing is quite flexible, all right? So I spend, sometimes a lot of time in here, but then sometimes not much time because I have other commitments. So I don't know if having 80% sort of time, I don't know if I'm understanding the question, like if you contract 80% time, whether that would really help personally. I feel like if you have your contract, you can come and do, as long as you get the work done, I think that is what makes people more efficient. That you have that flexibility of time.
Right. Okay. Laurence?
Yes, I was thinking the same. So not to reduce the involvement of people in what they want to do, the research, but for sure in academia, I think that we should try to reduce for example, the teaching part of the position during this time period when you have young children, because it can be quite easy to give part of the teaching to someone else during this period, to just have more time for research and for career development during period, and also maybe to allocate some technical help to researchers that are involved in building family during this period.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well,
I would like to chime in, since I'm in the same university as Carmen, and well, although I can't speak for the rest of the world, but certainly in most of Western Europe, I think there's some flexibility to try and work like 4 days of the week instead of 5. You know, so you have like an 80% involvement, and you have a day off to like try and involve yourself more in childcaring responsibilities. But more often than not, I think this is a little more prevalent in administrative positions in the university, but this is not something that's outrightly encouraged for academic positions. But I think this really needs to be the norm, that if people want to work 4 days a week for childcaring responsibilities, so be it. But on the other hand, the yardstick to measure their productivity, right, productivity of sorts, should also be flexible. Like on the one hand, you cannot have a hypocritical culture that says, okay, you know, you can work 80%, that's fine, we're very flexible, we're very family friendly. But on the other hand, as Dipesh said, when it comes to promotion committees or grant funding bodies, you know, the clock's really ticking against you, because first of all, you chose to work 80%. And this is what I mean by more often than not, early career scientists as young parents are penalized by academia, because I mean, there is no mindset in academia to factor this into account, and to also, you know, realize that this might affect your productivity in terms of writing papers or getting grants or whatever, because you're not working that one extra day in the week. I don't know if this is going to make a world of a difference, but all I'm trying to say is that in as much as universities want to be flexible with work hours, allowing scientists to also fulfill childcare responsibilities, they also need to ensure that yardsticks to measure their productivity should also be proportionately flexible.
Sure. No, I think this is really very, very important point you're bringing on. Maybe we can discuss, you know, more fully this, because if we can think of right now, it's only a few people that actually decide to maybe take, you know, the short week. But think about it, in an ideal world, all scientists have children, and all scientists will take the, you know, the 4-day week. And then at that point, it will level up, right? So the problem is that the more we try to extend these ideas and to, you know, make scientists realize that having a full life, if they want, of course, to have children, it's actually not going to penalize them, because there will be a lot of them, you know, in the same situation. Then they will not be, you know, isolated, and they will not be penalized. So I think that ensuring that more and more of this happens, it will make it more, you know, even more easy to you know, to be acceptable. So, but thank you very much for all these thoughts. And I would like at this point to go on. And I would like to introduce Elaine Del Bell. She has an incredible name. I can't really pronounce it. Maybe she can do it for me, Elaine. Okay, so we are switching now to Brazil. We're going to São Paulo with Elaine. And Elaine, she's a full professor of physiology at Ribeirão Preto, a very nice place in Brazil. And her interest is in neurodegenerative mental disorders, such as Parkinson's disease and schizophrenia. She actually is a well-recognized scientist. She has had, for example, an award for outstanding accomplishment in mentoring. So this is a very important, and it relates a lot to you know, how women devote themselves more to mentoring than maybe to their own career, but I think this is part of your career, mentoring. So I think she can really tell us a lot, coming from a country like Brazil, about, you know, science discrimination and whether the country where you do your research really matters in terms of being discriminated. So Elaine, I leave the floor to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Francesca and Alba, and for this organizing this wonderful meeting. It's a pleasure to be here. No, my name is Del Bell, and incredibly, it is an Italian name. All my ancestors came from the north of Italy, so Francesca. But you know, thank you for the presentation, the nice one. Really, I'm talking about another thing besides motherhood, and I have one daughter. Okay, I could have more, but I have one. So it was a difficult time for me. We can talk about that later. But what I wanted to bring to our discussion is concerning science discrimination. I want to first to say that discrimination is a global issue, okay? Any nationality can experience discrimination regardless of country or culture. Discrimination based on national origin affects everyone, whether Black, white, Latino, Asian, and discrimination can and does include all races as well gender or other ethnic aspects. It is there. There isn't a way to deny. But science is a borderless activity, okay? And has long served as a role model for international cooperation. In a utopian world, in a future that we can imagine, bias, discrimination, or prejudice, regardless of name, of identity, wouldn't exist. But it does, and admitting it exists means examining our reaction, our behavior, no? Our reaction to different, to other. Unconscious bias, education needs, and it would be good to increase awareness of how our mind work in this sense, would help people to, and organizations adopt practices that improve decision making, okay? I really don't know if I could speak all what I want. Can I go on further? Okay, so,
yes.
Oh, thank you. One example, no, concerning publication opportunities. Discrimination exists, there are against other persons who speak different languages or cannot have fluency in English, because English is the official science language, okay? As a consequence, we have a disparity in access to publication opportunities. Maybe scientific societies, research organizations, publishers, and governments should recognize it and collectively strive to establish sustainable model to mitigate this kind of discrimination, okay? Not just, establish payment for English correction and things like that, because it is not easy also. And another thing now is that many other global issues remain, particularly with respect to capacity of building and researcher mobility and training in developing countries, okay? For sure, developed and developing countries can collaborate to strengthen global scientific capacity and mutual mobility investigators in any stage can go to this kind of collaboration. But extended focused collaboration should move from the directional depletion of human scientific results, like, you know, brain drain, that is something that happens between our countries and the other ones, to maybe the more equitable model as brain connectivity and circulation, okay? I'm not telling that it happens with everyone and everything, but there is something that it is there, okay? And for example, if I am a referee and I am analyzing abstracts of publications, the name of the person that wrote this abstract, it's something that made something really difficult. The authors, there are studies showing that the referee takes, or the manager takes just 6 seconds looking at from the names and from where is it, and just leave by the side, okay? And I know that there is studies showing that Great Britain, Germany, Sweden, and the Netherlands, they sometimes make a blind summary. They don't put any name. My husband's name is Guimarães, okay? So Smith, for example, is much better for than Guimarães, okay? So we need ethics, research, integrity. It must be really transparent. So any misconduct or must be just you know, discussed and show it, and maybe to do something better. Okay.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you very much. Actually, you throw a lot of topics of discussion. There were a lot of topics of discussion because you talked about bias, you talked about implicit bias, you talked about discrimination due to language, right? And that is, of course, an important one. And then also the discrimination that comes when a reviewer, you know, is whatever, a grant reviewer or a paper reviewer, he's looking first of all at your name, and maybe your name comes from, maybe it you know, it's your country of origin, but also your gender, whether you're a female or a male. There are, you know, there is some literature now to show that, for example, females and males, you know, male authors are treated differently from by editors. So clearly there is a culture that has to be changed in a way, no? So that as to make, you know, to overcome these discriminations. But as you said, and I think this is another very important thing, awareness is very important, and to start talking about it is already the first step. So that's what we are doing here. We are starting to talk about this, and by talking and by recognizing that there are differences, disparities, biases, we can start doing something about them. So, and I'm really curious to know all those that are listening to our session today, what they think about this. So please ask questions. Okay. I will, oh, okay, finally, I see questions coming in. Eviva, I'm very happy about that. So what I will do now is I will turn to our last panelist, and then ask, you know, and then allow more questions to come in, and then, you know, try and stimulate the discussion. So the next panelist is Jacque Ip. I hope I said it right. And he's actually in Hong Kong. So we're again going to another part of the world right now, but he's actually studied in many places. He studied in Australia, and so he's probably had a lot of experience in different countries. So that would be very important also for us to know how how we experience different systems and how these systems actually relate to the questions we are asking today. He's actually interested in the mechanism of synaptic plasticity in autism-related disorders. And I would like to have a comment from him on science discrimination and, you know, how it is from the Hong Kong, from the Chinese perspective.
Thank you, Francesca. Hello, everyone. I'm Jacque, and I totally agree with Elaine about science discrimination. So I think what I will do today is to share my own experience. So as Francesca mentioned, I did my bachelor in Australia, and then I did my PhD back in Hong Kong, my hometown, and then I did my postdoc in the United States, and then now I start my own lab back in Hong Kong. I think I will share some of my experience like when I transit from one country to another, especially I have my training locally in Hong Kong. And when I first started as a postdoc in the United States, I felt like I was under pressure because I need to work very hard to demonstrate myself, to show people I can do things properly, I can do good science. And that extra pressure was quite a burden. And also, as a person with English, not my first language, so sometimes I feel shy or I worry people will judge me when I ask questions, and like, can they understand my question properly? Am I asking something stupid, or am I conveying the message right? So I think that kind of like pressure was like giving me like negative influence at the beginning. And then like over time, I spent 6 years in the United States, and I think I kind of like overcome that gradually. But now I reflect on it. If I can avoid those issues, I could have enjoyed the time more and get a better training in that sense. And then now I'm back to Hong Kong when I start my own lab. I think the challenge is how to demonstrate that with all the training, now I'm starting my own lab and I can reach an international standard, or how I can convince reviewers and editors that work from my lab that you may not heard of, that we can do good science. And I agree with Elaine that I often observe that, this is just my personal observation, that if the work comes from a big lab or from a big institution, like they receive much more attention, even if we're doing similar work or we publish something similar. I think that's kind of sad. And I also agree with Francesca that I think having like the community or the field to recognize this fact is a very good first step. I also want to talk a little bit about some local culture here. I think local culture is another issue that may create discrimination. For example, how we can include more people like from different gender and also from like small ethnic group, I think it's also an issue. Like in my lab, some like Southeast Asian, like not Chinese, like Hong Kong Chinese, they may want to work in a lab. They may receive training not from like a prestigious or well-known university. So that created some problems because they may not get accepted. So they may get training from Bangladesh or from other Southeast countries. So I'm trying hard like to recruit them, like because I know they can do science and they're very interested to do a PhD with me in my university. Then I was trying hard to talk to the school and the university to accept them as a PhD student, but they would have me to recruit them as a research scientist, research assistant first, like for a certain amount of period, and then they would decide whether they would accept them or not. So I think that there's some issues to be solved here, and my goal is to promote neuroscience in Hong Kong. Hopefully I can work with like some other like junior PIs and form a critical mass, and then we can promote neuroscience in Hong Kong. So one thing is that Hong Kong is a very financial based city, so it's really hard to nurture or the younger generation and raise the interest in neuroscience as well. So, but that's a different issue. Yeah, I think that's what I want to share with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, I have finally questions. And one question is from Marion Brickvade. I hope I said it right. And Marion is very concerned about the journal, our journal system, right? So she's insisting on what we were saying before, anonymizing authorship as a first, you know, when the paper is actually submitted. She thinks that this would be really an amazing step. And I would like to turn this to you, and especially, I don't know if Elaine, who started this, would like to answer as to, you know, whether this is something that she thinks can be enforced. I mean, something that could be taken on by editors, or how can we, you know, potentially have this become true?
Well, maybe one of the things is not the name with the name of the lab or the contributors and the country, no. But I would like just to tell briefly one experience I had. No, I sent for me an important paper to a journal. If you want, I can say the name of the journal, but doesn't matter. And the paper was analyzed for 4 referees. And in the end, I received the message of the editor, and the paper wasn't approved. I didn't have even the possibility of answer the things, no? But, and as Jacque was telling, I was always shy. Always, as a woman and working in this place, I was always thinking, no, maybe it's not good enough. But what happened was that one of the referees, a woman, she wrote to me and told me, your paper is really good. It's not possible. I am shocked that it wasn't, you know, accepted, at least for answering and corrections. So I wrote it to she gave me strength. I wrote it to the editor, and I told it to him. And further on, when I was very polite, very scientific, but in the end of the letter, I asked him if it wouldn't be a prejudice against, you know, under the equator countries. And he answered to me, and he gave me the opportunity, and I answered all the questions, and the paper was published. So with this, I'm telling 2 things. For sure, no putting not know the name. The second thing is to learn how to react to this kind of things, okay? And I heard also from one editor of a very good journal that they never, when they consider a paper, they didn't consider the English or the place where the person come, but they think about science, they think about the idea, and they look at the experiments that were done and if they are good or not. So three ways to maybe education and this last one, education, personality, I don't know. Those are suggestions. Maybe people you can say something more, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I would like to share my 2 cents worth. I totally agree with you in that. Well, I've personally faced such circumstances myself. So I think neuroscience as a field of research is still very nascent. You know, it's been around for the past half a century or so. It's still got to learn a lot from other fields of research that have been around for longer. In that sense, neuroscience is a new kid on the block, right? So when it comes to publishing papers, neuroscience is still a lot about names and universities and that baggage that comes along, you know, all the paraphernalia that comes along with publishing a paper. I think neuroscience, even to this day, is a lot about that. And this has to change. And as a field, we need to learn from other scientific disciplines what their publication practices are. I mean, I'm not saying that other scientific disciplines are free of prejudice, but a lot of these disciplines have been around for much longer, so they've probably endured some of these problems, and they have solutions. Like, I think physics conferences or physics journals. I think, I mean, some of these have a tradition of going double-blind, where the reviewer does not know your identity and vice versa, right? In neuroscience, it's only single-blind. So they know us, but we don't know them, right? Of sorts. So this has to change. And I think if there's a conscious effort in trying to go towards a double-blind policy where the identity of authors or reviewers are not known, and it's only the science that matters, as you said, Elaine, then I think that's really going to work wonders. Because unless there's a grassroots level change in how we handle publications, by really obfuscating the identity of authors and their institutions and whatever, until then, neuroscience will only be about publishing authors, publishing names and institutions, but not really the science, again, as Jacque said.
Thank you very much, Srikanth. I think this is really very, very nice. I would like now, because I have questions, and I would like to go back to another very important matter. Aniko Korosi is asking, are there good examples internationally to better valorize the added value of women leadership by mentoring and investing in younger generation? For example, awards for mentoring. I would like Laurence to answer this.
Indeed, so it begins now to have some effectively prize and recognition for mentoring and so on, but it's quite confidential still. But there are other ways. So for example, at the University of Antwerp here in Belgium, they decide to evaluate people not on indicators that are the same for everybody, but to ask people their own objective and the way they are seeing the progress in their career at the beginning of the hiring, and then they have, for example, 5-year plans of how they will develop the lab and how they will work, and they are assessed on their personal engagement. And so if we agree on what we want to do and then assess you on what we have finally achieved, it's much more fair than just use indicators that fit to the way you are working. But it's just an internal organization inside an institution, but that could be valuable.
But this goes back to what you were saying at the beginning, right? That, for example, in terms of differences between men and women when they start a career, and what they devote their time and efforts. And women devote a lot of time and effort to, for example, being a mentor or to teaching or to help young people develop and become, adult scientists. So maybe we should really start thinking of a new culture that allows to, shall we call it, an inclusive scientific productivity? So in a way that takes into account not just your productivity, but also the productivity of your group or those that you have been helping out. So I think that we should develop new methods of actually assessing this, which is part of, of the job. And so what do you think?
Yes, I agree, but it's indeed very difficult to find a good way to assess this kind of action, because we don't really know what is your part in the success of others, of course. Yeah, but I think it's really important to take this kind of behavior into account in the assessment indeed. And yeah, maybe what can say. I don't know, because the problem is that when you apply for a job with only papers, you have to say I have done that and that and that, and you have to give figures about what you have performed before. And this is a difficult point to find a way to recognize this involvement in the progression. But
I agree.
Yeah, we can hope that things will change progressively, and that it will be more general in science, and
right,
more people will behave like that.
I have another question from Simone Zacharias. How can institutes be more inclusive and not encourage tokenism with minority? How about the one gens in academia? Origin, ethnicity, age, gender, identity, seniority. Which measures do you take and advise can be actively acted on? Which tools and devices do you use not for the likes of me people drop out? Who would like to answer this? Maybe Jacque, who was very much interested in this issue.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting question, and actually the question is about institute. I think that's a very tricky issue when you go up to institute level. So what I can consider for now is at the laboratory level, like as a PI, I can use my own funding, like to hire people, let's say. So the criteria I use is to have a conversation with this person and see, like, to have a sincere conversation with the person, like regardless of the age, gender, or origin, like to see whether this person fits in the scope and direction of the lab, and if yes, then this person, I would say this person is suitable to go into the team. However, at the institute level, things are more tricky because they have like a strict guideline to assess a person, like where they graduate, what's the qualification. I think we have to change the mindset of those management people at the institute level. Like they have to not to use that scale to assess a person. Like maybe they should give that person a chance, like to explain or to introduce themselves and see whether they're a good fit for a particular program. If they can demonstrate the ability or the interest or potential to excel in that program, I think they should consider it. So that's how I think, but how realistic to put it into actions or reality is tricky, because you can make one exception for this person, like can you make exception for the other person? I think like that will be the concern like from the management people, but I think they should like consider that. So that's my personal point of view.
Other thoughts?
I'd just like to say, I mean, just reiterating what Jacque said, and only because we had this recently where, and I think Srikanth and Elaine had touched on this as well, getting recruiting people from, looking at where they came from in terms of not so much the race or whatever, but which institution, all right? So this is again talking about publication, but also we were hiring faculty, and surprisingly, some of my colleagues, but also admin, as Jacque was saying, had so admin because they're not in the fields, I don't know, but some of my colleagues had reservations about certain candidates we had, and their science was perfectly fine for what they were doing, but it was they were coming from this place, or whatever institution, and people already had this sort of bias against it. And so essentially, you know, I've always believed, and you know, as Jacque just alluded to, it should be we talk to people if they can do the work, if they're qualified, and this is something we really need to get, I guess, within our respective institutions, need to have this conversation within the academics and then with the admin staff as well, or whoever's involved. And this actually goes to this, I guess, communication between, I know with us sometimes, I mean, we have a great department here generally, but then we always have a bit of a disconnect with the admin people who are sometimes involved with some of the hiring, for example. This is another thing you're just touching on that we need to figure out. But yeah, going back to Jacque, I think we need to have this dialogue about, you know, it should be just, I mean, it's common sense, but sometimes it gets lost, right? The person's ability, irrespective of gender, sex, where they came from, right? It's an obvious thing, but it's something that's still lacking, I think.
Yeah, I also have questions very related to what we are saying right now by Viviane Campos. She's thinking of Brazil. What action can be developed to combat the racial discrimination in research? I myself think awareness, as Elaine already alluded to, is the first. Now you have to know that there is what it is. You have to know it if you want to fight it. And then, of course, and this I think relates also to institutions, we have to train, you know, those in charge as to what they should do if they want to avoid. Because maybe people are not, you know, some people are, they're not just bad, they're not just, they just don't know better. They just don't know better how to do it, how they could do it. So if we, and this is something that ALBA is trying to do, if we develop a code of, you know, how you should behave in order to avoid discrimination, tips, you know, simple tips, then a lot of people that have not done it just because they didn't know better, they might, you know, we might really change things in a way. And there will be some people that will not do it, but that's okay. We don't really care about that. What we care is about what we can do and those who we can really, you know, bring on our side. There is another question by Annalise. What do you think is the best way to increase awareness, again, about gender disparities at the institutional level? I think I've sort of answered this question in part, but is there anybody else who would like to say something about this?
Yeah. So maybe what can be done, it's try to follow women and men in institution from their entry in the institution, so as a PhD student or postdoc student, and then see what they become and why. And so, because obviously there are some leaking, so we are losing some people along when going to a higher position. But why? What is the reason? So we can try to track people along the career to have answers. So what is happening to try to work on this problem and tackle the problem.
So yeah, I would like to add to it as well.
Yeah.
So I have young children, so it's often very difficult to get them to eat well. And my daughter always asks me, so why is this vegetable this color and another vegetable that color and things like that, right? So when you go to a salad bar, there are green vegetables, there are red vegetables, there are some other vegetables. So you see this color discrimination right from when you go out to get food into your plate to whatever, right? So I think fundamentally, the awareness is all about the fact that all these colors, all these vegetables, everything matters because it creates a balance. I mean, imagine a life if you only had to eat spinach, but suddenly you had carrots, then what would that do? It suddenly changes, you know, the appearance of your plate. It makes it more colorful because there are more colors. There's more to assimilate. So, you know, in that sense, I think this awareness really has to come from way before, in that everyone, everything in all shapes, sizes, and colors matter, because that contributes to balance, and we need this equilibrium to function together as one. That's really, really fundamental. And the sooner we can get this awareness together, I think the better. And I think the salad plate analogy is very good, because I managed to convince my 2-year-old daughter, well, I don't know if I managed to convince, at least she seemed to be, that it's a reason for why we need diversity. So it's as fundamental as that.
Thank you, Srikanth. I think you said something that's really important, that we really have to start from, you know, when we are, you know, in childcare. So, because of course, you know, gender or any type of disparity is, you know, is something that it's not in our nature. I mean, if you look at children, they play with whoever they find. They don't care about, you know, color, race, or country of origin. So I think that this is something that should start really from you know, from the very beginning, educating towards, you know, the importance of, not that there is no diversity. The diversity is there, but the diversity is actually a plus, you know? It's a value that if we were all the same, it wouldn't be as rich or as interesting and as, yeah. So I think this is really a very nice thought. So I think we have time for a very last comment, or who would like to end our discussion? Elaine.
I will try to be very quick. Someone, I do not remember who, told about to know the referees concerning papers and things like that, no? This was really something proposed for some journals, no? But the same journals that started to propose transparency concerning persons that are doing the review, they asked for a lot of money, because let's say now they give the one that is writing the paper is paying for that, okay? So this is another problem, maybe not for the labs that have a big grants, but the ones that doesn't have, it's difficult. So it's another thing that we need to think about and to discuss, okay? Concerning open publication and so knowing the reviewers and the payment of that. Something must be done concerning that. Not that I think it's very good to have open publications, but we need to think about how to do that in the other way, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. I think this is a very, very important matter and question that you are bringing about. I think we can maybe suggest, you know, that this might be a panel by itself, thinking about publishing and discrimination in publishing, and where is publishing going? Because of course, if you have to pay to get your paper published, then you discriminate those labs that have less resources, and that's clearly creating an unfair world. So I think this is a thought that we leave, you know, for another another discussion. So I would like to thank really very much all our panelists that have given us some very important hints. Thank you very much really for an important discussion, as Anna is telling me right now as a comment. I would like to tell all those that are still attending that they could join ALBA. And please go on our website, take a look at all the important things that ALBA is doing. If you want to become an ambassador, you can do that. So I really hope to see a lot of you, although I don't see them clearly, I don't see your faces, to see you in, you know, joining ALBA. And thank you again. And I would like also to thank Carmen Sandy, who is, you know, who has put together ALBA, who is you know, the motor, the engine of ALBA, who has created all of this. And I think it's really a very important endeavor. Thank you all, and hope for the next panel.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye, and thank you. Okay. Thank you,
Bye-bye,
everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.